What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey, and today we're going to be talking about the trade deadline and whether or not the Winnipeg Jets are going to make some moves. Now, I've already kind of covered what type of assets the Jets have heading into this deadline, so if you want to check that video out, I'll throw it up right now in the top right corner. Go check it out so you can get a general idea, I should say, of what type of pieces the Jets have and what they could possibly do as we get closer and closer to free agency and the trade deadline and all the offseason stuff that's going to be coming as well, because some of those players have some term left as well. But today, we are going to be talking about Brenden Dillon. Brenden Dillon has been one of the most recent acquisitions to this team. We traded 2 second-round picks to the Washington Capitals in the offseason to acquire him. He has been a pretty good player for us. He hasn't had his best season in his career. He hasn't had his worst, but nonetheless, he hasn't been the best impactful player that we've wanted. But again, honestly, this Jets team has been a complete letdown, so maybe in an alternate universe, he's killing it and having a career year. So nonetheless, though, I like Brenden Dillon. I think he's been a good addition to this team, even though I would like to see some youth be thrown in that lineup as well. But again, from where we were last year with the blue line to where we are now, I'm still happy to see some improvement being made over the offseason and acquiring talent, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about Brenden Dillon and the possible trade rumors that might follow him as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. So if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Winnipeg Jets trade rumors and speculations heading into the trade deadline, make sure to drop a subscription. We're going to be covering all the news that breaks and is also rumored as we get closer to that date. So without any further ado, let's talk about Brenden Dillon. Now, the main catalyst for this video doesn't have to actually do with a specific rumor revolving around Brenden Dillon. Right now, as far as I can tell, there have been no calls really been made. There's not been a lot of interest, and if there has been, it's not really public knowledge at this point. But what really drives this conversation right now comes from Frank Zaravelli on his show, The Daily Rundown. Basically, on the last episode of The Daily Rundown, he talked about Ben Chiarot, the Montreal Canadiens defenseman, as well as a former Winnipeg Jet that we all know and love. He has been a very big potential, if not a guaranteed trade target for a lot of teams heading into the deadline. He's expiring this year. He's a pretty good depth defenseman if you ask me, but the asking price has been a little bit of a question of late. But nonetheless, he's drawn a lot of interest. But what Frank Zaravelli said about Ben Chiarot actually applied to what he feels about Brenden Dillon as well. He says that Brenden Dillon is the Ben Chiarot of the market, but with term, there's definitely some value there. Let's see where it goes. Now, I think with that is enough to talk about what potentially we're going to see with the rumors that might follow Brenden Dillon going into the deadline and what teams potentially could be interested as well. Now, to refer and kind of, wrap all this together in a pretty little bow, I'm going to use an article that was published on the Hockey News on February 21st talking about Montreal Canadiens defenseman Ben Chiarot and the rumors and teams and also potential what their asking price is has all been leaked out and potentially rumored. So let's go through this article a little bit and talk about Ben Chiarot's trade value and what teams are interested in him and how that applies to Brenden Dillon. So when you go over and look at this article on Sportsnet, Elliot Friedman came out and said that the St. Louis Blues have been added to the list of potential suitors. Despite his affordable cap hit, their payroll is tight like a lot of other teams interested, but nonetheless, St. Louis is another team looking for defense, but that's not really where, the icing on this cake really starts. He goes into as to talk about the other teams potentially interested as well. The Calgary Flames, the Boston Bruins, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Florida Panthers, the New York Rangers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Those are all teams on the verge of trying to win a Stanley Cup. They are very, very good contending teams. Obviously, they're going to be looking to acquire talent. Now, the big thing and how this applies to Brenden Dillon is the fact that when you look at where Brenden Dillon is and you look at where Ben Chiarot is, they're very, 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 very similar players. And that's why I think that the asking price for Ben Chiarot, even though it might be high, could translate to what the Jets might look to get out of Brenden Dillon. Because you have to remember, less than a year ago, we acquired him for 2 second-round picks. So if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, your job's potentially already on the hot seat. You've had all the other stuff been following you this season as well. You've had a lot of negative media attention on you. You want to be able to go out there and make a trade if it's a good trade for you, but also getting a return that also kind of compensates losing 2 second-round picks. 2 second-round picks are very valuable in today's day and age. The draft for the first 60 players that go in it are all very talented, and even past that, when you look at where some of these Jets have been drafted and other players have been drafted, any pick can be gold. So draft picks are very, very valuable, especially 2 second-round picks. The Montreal Canadiens currently are asking for a first-round pick. That is the main rumor for Ben Chiarot, but it is also believed that they would be happy to accept a prospect equivalent to a first-round pick from the past 2 years of NHL drafting. So if the Jets are also looking for this similar type of price tag, I think it's safe to say that they're going to be looking for a prospect compared to a first-round pick, if anything. Maybe a second-round pick and a second-round pick level prospect, maybe, if that's the situation for Cheveldayoff. But I think this Ben Chiarot narrative of him being similar to what the asking price for Brenden Dillon would be is very, very fair, especially when you go look at their advanced stats. Let's take a look over at Ben Chiarot's advanced stats and go over his stats. So he's got obviously this year, it's not been a good year for Ben Chiarot. It's not been a good year for anybody on the Montreal Canadiens. He's got a 3% WAR, even offensive strength rating at 30%, even strength defensive rating at 18%, goals above 60%, average above 60% at 65%. His penalties are at 6%. His penalty kill is at 13%. He's got an 85% finishing, which is, I guess, is good. But at the same time, you're not acquiring Ben Chiarot to be a top 4 point getter on your defensive core. So at the end of the day, what Ben Chiarot is a value defenseman. They call him a top pair defenseman. He's not. He's a guy that's going to complement a already solid top 6 of defensive players in this NHL that we're trying to compete for whatever the cup is on whatever team they're on. And when you look at his stats, yes, they're going to back that up, even his numbers-wise, right? You look at Ben Chiarot this season, he's got 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points. 5 goals actually is his second time he's hit that. He hit that with the Jets in 2018-19. He had 9 goals with the Montreal Canadiens in his first year in 2019-20. So, he's having a pretty good number goal-wise, yes, but what I think it really comes down to is you're not acquiring Ben Chiarot, obviously, for scoring. You're acquiring him for depth and defensive play. And I think that's what you're going to be getting from Brenden Dillon as well. Because when you look at Brenden Dillon's advanced stats, he's got a 43% WAR. His even strength offensive rating's at 46. His even strength defensive rating is at 79%. His overall defensive stats and even some offensive stats are kind of better, in my opinion, based off what he brings. And his numbers offensively are pretty good, too. When you look at the season he's having, he's got 15 points, 1 goal, 14 assists. Like I said, 15 points in 47 games. Last year in a 56-game season, he had 19 points. So he's putting up a pretty good point total compared to where he was last year. He's probably going to be on track to pass that, if you ask me. So yeah, he's having a good season, kind of where he was last year. He's still a valuable top 4 asset to a defensive core. I think he brings more defensively and offensively as a two-way defenseman than what Ben Chiarot brings. And when you even compare them with just their basic stats, Brenden Dillon edges out Ben Chiarot in almost all the numbers except really goals. So if you're asking me, I think that Brenden Dillon is a better defenseman, and not only is he a better defenseman, Brenden Dillon still has 3 years left on his contract at $3.9 million, so you're getting a defenseman with term that's going to help you win in your window. So what all this comes down to, in my opinion, is that I think it is very fair to assume that if the Winnipeg Jets are going to put Brenden Dillon on the block heading into the deadline, they could theoretically get more than what Ben Chiarot is as with what Ben Chiarot's asking price is. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. We're going to have to see how time and everything plays out. But I think it's safe to say, based off of numbers, that Brenden Dillon theoretically could fetch at least a good prospect and probably maybe a second-round pick, if not something else in that ballpark. So Brenden Dillon is a valuable asset the Jets have. He's got term. Teams will be looking to acquire that. A lot of teams in a cup window are rather take a good top 4 defenseman to help solidify that team up, especially if he's got some term left. For example, look how valuable Mattias Ekholm was last year. His asking price was so high he never even got dealt from the Nashville Predators. So I think that it's safe to say Brenden Dillon, if he is made available for trade, the Jets could theoretically get a decent return for him to kind of match what they paid with those 2 second-round picks. And at this point, I'm just trying to stay optimistic because I think there are better, future-wise players in our defensive system right now on the Moose, like Ville Heinola, Declan Chisholm as well, even a Dylan Samberg, who I was very impressed with when he made the Jets for that short period of time with COVID and injuries. So I want to see more of these young guys play. I think they've got a lot to bring, and I think their skill level is finally reaching that NHL stage. And I think Brenden Dillon, we brought him in maybe 2 seasons too late. If we had acquired Brenden Dillon when we had lost to Dustin Byfuglien and Tyler Myers going back then to when all that happened a few seasons ago, then I would be probably had appreciated him more and he probably would have fit the system a little bit more. But with the current state of the Jets, I think it's safe to say that shipping out Brenden Dillon is the best course of action for the future. But let me know your thoughts, Jets fans. Do you think Brenden Dillon could fetch an asking price that what Ben Sherratt's getting? Do you think that the asking price for Ben Sherratt's insane and he won't get dealt, and if he does, it will be for some fraction of that? Let me know all of your thoughts on these trade rumors and speculations surrounding Brenden Dillon in the comment section below. Like I said at the start of this video, if you are new to this channel, definitely drop a subscription. Help us get to 2,000 subscribers. Make sure to subscribe for all your Winnipeg Jets news, game recaps, and whatever stuff is happening as we get closer and closer to this trade deadline. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and check out all the affiliated links down in the description below as always. Have a great rest of your day. Peace, love, and positivity as always. And go, Jets, go!